The year is 1968, and this man messes around and releases 2001 A Space Odyssey. For those who don't know, the man in the picture is Stanley Kubrick, one of the greatest and most influential filmmakers of all time. He's responsible for this famous scene.
Here's Johnny!
And this modern masterpiece of a movie with its iconic soundtrack. 2001 A Space Odyssey is a movie about humans and our relationship to technology and its consequences. And boy, does it tell that in a confusing way. This movie is paced really badly. Like, really badly. I was bored the first time I saw it. I had to skip some parts because it was just moving really slow. And the ending was so confusing. The last 15 minutes don't make sense when you first see them. You need to really sit on it. And I sat on it for a while and it began to make sense. First section is titled The Dawn of Man, and it shows how we develop from being prey to weapon-wielding beings, and it is conceptually stunning. This whole section has no dialogue except the monkey screaming, and it's an excellent example of a concept in cinema called show don't tell, a fundamental principle. It also introduces the monolith, which is a big black box that ties the movie together. The ending of the section transitions beautifully into the second section with a bone tossed into the air, and then it cuts as the bone is shaped like a spaceship, and then cuts to the spaceship. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. The second section, which has no title, highlights how in space we are basically babies again, and we have to relearn the fundamentals like walking, eating, and using the toilet. All of these things are shown like they're literally shown. Like there's gripping shoes, and there's eating through straws, and there's a manual for using the toilet. It's all meticulously like shown. It also depicts how we as humans build tools that look like humans. The spaceship is formed like a head, for Christ's sake. The concepts, man. The concepts. The astronauts in this section find another monolith, which triggers a sound, and it leads into the third section of the film. The third section of the movie is called the Jupiter Mission, and it shows how our own creations can end up killing us, as the onboard computer called the HAL 9000 kills the astronauts on board except one, Dave, who manages to outsmart it in the end by unplugging its system, which leads into the fourth part of the movie. The last section of the movie, entitled Jupiter and Beyond Infinity, where Dave completes the objective, opens with him reaching Jupiter and then going into the black monolith thing. And it just sucks him in, and it goes through this wormhole, time, space, black hole thing, and that's how we end up in that very confusing last 15 minutes I discussed earlier. This section, to this day, I still have questions about, but it could just symbolize how we go through everything as human beings and we return to being babies in the end, because the movie ends with a giant baby floating in space. It's so crazy. This movie is surreal. It's a CGI masterpiece for its time. It definitely inspired Star Wars because it came earlier, and it did it really well. The CGI still holds up very well today, and even without all of this flashy stuff, it's just a really good movie. Great script, great concepts, great film. It shows, it doesn't tell. It tells sometimes, but it shows for the most part. It's just showing you humanity, technology, how they interact, what can go wrong. And it's a movie I highly recommend. So on my scale of 1 to 9, I give this movie a 10 because it's a masterpiece. It's just a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece that needs to be watched. If you haven't watched this movie, highly recommend you watch this movie, and you should tell me what you think in the comments. Around halfway through the movie, it literally says intermission. Like it cuts and it says intermission. Like, who does this? Movie was made for the cinema. Like, if you don't go to the cinema, I feel bad for you because you're missing out. Like, you're missing out on such. I can't imagine being in the cinema at that time. And it says intermission, and it comes back like Stanley Kubrick, you genius, you genius. May your soul rest in peace. Watch this movie, guys.